Alien bandits stole his fox wife, and awakened a love that would burn worlds. The abduction. The orbital station Kepler-7 floated serenely against the velvet backdrop of space, its rotating rings glittering with 1,000 lights. Inside Habitat Module 12, Jovan Drake stood before the viewport, watching cargo freighters drift past like luminous fish. Behind him, he heard the soft padding of footsteps, and warmth bloomed in his chest. Daydreaming again. Zuria's voice carried that playful lilt he'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. Her copper fur caught the starlight as she approached, emerald eyes dancing with affection. She wore her engineering coveralls, stained with grease from the morning shift, yet to Jovan, she'd never looked more beautiful. He turned and pulled her close, breathing in her familiar scent, cinnamon and metal polish. "Just thinking how lucky I am," he murmured against her ear. "Best engineer in 7 sectors, and you chose a simple cargo pilot." Zuria laughed, her tail swishing contentedly. "Simple? You've navigated the Helix Passage blindfolded. Don't undersell yourself." She pressed her muzzle to his neck, and he felt her smile against his skin. "Besides, you make the best Alvarian coffee in this entire station." Their moment shattered when red emergency lights flooded the corridor. The station's automated voice crackled through speakers, "Hull breach detected. All personnel proceed to evacuation." The transmission cut. Through the viewport, Jovan saw them. 3 angular warships bearing the crimson insignia of the Kravik Syndicate, notorious mercenaries who operated beyond Federation law. His blood froze. "Zuria, we need to." "The safe room," she finished, already moving. But as they reached their door, it exploded inward. Armored figures poured through, bipedal aliens with scaled skin and cold, calculating eyes. Jovan lunged forward, catching one across the jaw, but a plasma stun blast sent him crashing against the wall. Through blurred vision, he watched Zuria fight like the royal scout she'd once been, her movements fluid and precise. She took down 2 attackers before they overwhelmed her with numbers. "Jovan!" Her voice cracked as they dragged her toward the breach. Their eyes locked, hers full of desperate love and determination. "Find me." Then she was gone, swallowed by the warship's airlock. Jovan struggled to his feet, his heart splintering. But as he stumbled toward the station's maintenance terminal, his pilot's mind noticed something. Zuria had activated Emergency Protocol 7, a code they'd created for their private games, meaningless to anyone else. She'd left him a trail. His grief crystallized into iron purpose. He staggered toward the docking bay where the Horizon's Edge waited. The hunt begins. The Horizon's Edge tore through hyperspace, its engines pushing beyond recommended limits. Jovan sat in the pilot's seat, eyes bloodshot from 72 hours without sleep, fingers dancing across holographic displays. Beside him, Myra Solence monitored 3 star charts simultaneously, her tactical expertise invaluable. "There," Myra pointed at a data spike. "Another one of Zuria's signals. She's ejecting tracking chips every time they drop from hyperspace. Your wife is brilliant, Jovan." He allowed himself a grim smile. Zuria had hidden the chips in maintenance debris, invisible to scanners but recoverable through the specific frequency only their ship could detect. Each one contained coordinates and timestamps. She was marking their route like breadcrumbs across the galaxy. The latest signal led them to the Viridian cluster, a maze of ionized gas clouds. As they emerged from hyperspace, sensors screamed warnings. 2 Kravik's escort vessels flanked them immediately. "They're scanning us," Myra reported, her hands flying over weapons controls. "Should I?" "Wait." Jovan's voice was steel. He'd spent years navigating treacherous cargo routes. He understood patience. The escort's captains grew confident, moving closer to board them. That's when Jovan struck. The Horizon's Edge rolled beneath the first vessel, cannons hammering its exposed underbelly. Before the second could react, Jovan executed a flip burn that brought them nose to nose, missiles away at point-blank range. Both escorts spiraled into the nebula, crippled. Aboard the Nightfall, Zuria worked in the auxiliary engineering bay they'd forced her into. Her captors believed they were utilizing her expertise. Instead, she carefully rerouted power conduits, creating fluctuations that would mimic engine trouble. Each malfunction forced the Kravix to drop from hyperspace for repairs, giving Jovan more opportunities to close the distance. Vorath Kane watched her through observation windows, his reptilian features unreadable. "Your husband is persistent," he hissed. "3 of my ships damaged. You seem pleased." Zarya met his gaze without flinching, her emerald eyes defiant. "You underestimated what love makes possible." Vorath laughed coldly. "Love makes you weak. He'll die trying to reach you." "No," Zarya said softly, returning to her sabotage. "Love makes us unstoppable." That night, locked in her cell, she pressed her paw against the cold wall, imagining Jovan doing the same light years away. She remembered their last morning together, how he'd traced the copper patterns in her fur while dawn light filled their quarters, how he'd whispered that she was his entire universe. "Hold on," she breathed. "I'm coming home too." In hyperspace, Jovan clutched the small holopendant showing Zarya's smile. "Wait for me, love. Nothing will stop me." Across hostile territory, the Thorian belt sprawled before them like a graveyard of rock and metal. Thousands of asteroids housing mining operations, smuggler havens, and worse. Jovan guided the horizon's edge through the debris field with practiced precision, following Zarya's latest signal to Settlement Gamma 9, a notorious black market hub. "This place gives me chills," Myra muttered, eyeing the ramshackle station ahead. "Half the criminals in 3 sectors pass through here. Then they'll know about the Kravix." Jovan's jaw tightened. Zarya's signal had come from a data exchange terminal here. She'd somehow accessed external networks during a resupply stop. His clever, resourceful wife. They docked under false credentials. The settlement's interior reeked of recycled air and desperation. Jovan pushed through crowds of aliens and humans, following Myra to the data exchange in the station's underbelly. There, encrypted within local traffic, he found it, a message in their private code. "Pyros 9. Fortress. 3 days. Forever yours, Zed." His heart clenched. 3 days ago. He was closing in. But Pyros 9, a volcanic hellscape on the sector's edge, Vorath's stronghold. "We've got company," Myra warned. 6 Kravix enforcers emerged from the shadows, weapons drawn. Word of Jovan's pursuit had spread. The firefight erupted in the tight corridors. Jovan moved with deadly efficiency, years of self-defense training taking over. Myra covered their retreat, and they fought back to their ship, leaving chaos behind. Meanwhile, Zarya had reached Pyros 9. The fortress squatted on a volcanic plain, rivers of lava snaking between obsidian towers. In her cell, she befriended a young Kravix technician named Sylar, barely an adult, forced into service. "Why do you keep smiling?" Sylar asked, confused by Zarya's composure. "Because my husband is coming," Zarya replied, adjusting a loose wall panel. Beneath it, she'd been constructing a makeshift communicator from scavenged parts. "And when he does, these walls won't stop him." That evening, she successfully accessed the fortress's communication array for 30 precious seconds. She sent coordinates, shield frequencies, structural weaknesses, everything Jovan would need. In the darkness, she closed her eyes and remembered their wedding night on Station Elysium. They'd stood beneath the observatory's dome, twin stars blazing overhead. Jovan had lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to their honeymoon suite, where they'd made love for the first time, his touch reverent, her passion matching his. "You're my stars," he'd whispered, tracing her face. "My navigation points. With you, I'll never be lost." She'd kissed him deeply. "Then fly to me, always. Through any storm." Now, surrounded by enemies, she held that memory close. Soon, very soon into the fire. Pyros 9's atmosphere burned orange and crimson as the horizon's edge screamed toward the surface. Automated defense cannons erupted across the volcanic landscape, but Jovan flew like a man possessed, weaving through plasma fire with impossible precision. Zarya's intelligence had identified a weakness in the shield grid, a momentary gap during power cycling. 30 seconds to breach window, Myra announced from orbit, where she'd remain for extraction support. "Jovan, come back alive." "With her," he promised, "or not at all." The ship pierced the shields in a blaze of energy, crash landing near the fortress's eastern wall. Jovan emerged into hellish heat, wearing thermal armor and carrying enough weaponry for a small army. Volcanic ash swirled around him as he sprinted toward the entrance Zarya had marked. Inside the fortress, Zarya heard the distant explosions and smiled fiercely. She'd spent the morning programming her final sabotage, overloading the main power core with cascading failures that would take hours to trace. Now, as Jovan's assault began, she triggered it. Lights flickered throughout the compound. Blast doors malfunctioned. Vorith Kane roared orders, but his systems were failing. In the chaos, Scylla unlocked Zarya's cell, her eyes frightened but determined. "Go," the young Kravix whispered. "He's coming for you." 4th level, detention wing. Zarya embraced her quickly. "Thank you. Get to the escape shuttles." She ran through smoke-filled corridors, her heart pounding with hope and terror. What if Jovan was hurt? What if? Then she saw him. Jovan rounded the corner, battered and bleeding but alive, his eyes wild until they found her. Time seemed to stop. 4 months of separation, fear, and longing collapsed into a single crystalline moment. Zarya. Her name was a prayer on his lips. Jovan. She launched herself at him. They collided in a desperate embrace, his arms crushing her against his chest, her face buried in his neck. His mouth found hers in a kiss that tasted of ashen love and coming home. She clung to him, tears streaming through her copper fur, her tail wrapping around his leg. "I knew you'd come," she gasped between kisses. "I knew." "Always," he breathed, cupping her face, memorizing every detail he dreamed of. "Nothing could stop me. Nothing." Behind them, alarms shrieked. They had minutes before the fortress collapsed. "Together," Zarya said, grabbing his hand. "Forever," Jovan agreed. They ran toward freedom, side by side. Love's supernova. The corridors shook with escalating violence as reactor meltdowns spread through the fortress. Jovan and Zarya moved as one unit, their synchronization perfect despite months apart, him providing covering fire, her navigating through systems she'd memorized during captivity. Vorith Kane appeared at the landing bay entrance, his scaled face twisted with rage. "You've destroyed everything," he snarled, raising a plasma cannon. But Zarya was faster. The escape shuttle behind Vorith, the one she'd reprogrammed days ago, suddenly roared to life, its engines engaging at full thrust while still docked. The backblast caught Vorith, sending him tumbling into a collapsing support column. "That's for underestimating me," Zarya said coldly. They sprinted to the horizon's edge. Myra had brought it to the landing bay remotely, its engines already screaming. As they scrambled aboard, the fortress began its final collapse, lava breaching the lower levels, explosions flowering across its towers. Jovan took the controls with Zarya beside him, her paws on the secondary systems. Together they piloted through the disintegrating structure, dodging debris and fire, until they burst into Pyro's 9's toxic sky. Behind them, Voritha's fortress vanished in a volcanic eruption that would be visible from orbit. In hyperspace, finally safe, they stumbled to the crew quarters. The adrenaline faded, leaving only overwhelming need. Jovan pulled Zarya close, and she came willingly, their kisses deep and searching, making up for lost time. "I love you," he whispered against her fur, his hands trembling as they traced her body, reassuring himself she was real. "Every second without you was agony." "I'm here," she murmured, her emerald eyes glistening. "You burned through the galaxy for me. You fought armies. You never gave up." "Never," he promised. Their lovemaking that night was profound, tender and fierce, healing and passionate. They moved together like binary stars, two souls that had always been meant to orbit each other, their connection stronger for having been tested. Hours later, they stood at the viewport, wrapped in each other, watching stars stream past. Myra had set course for Kepler-7. "Home. We're legendary now," Zarya said softly. "The pilot who crossed the galaxy for love. The engineer who sabotaged an empire from within." Jovan kissed her forehead. "I don't care about legends. I just want you, every morning, every night, forever." "You have me," she promised. "Through every star and beyond." 3 weeks later, They renewed their vows on Kepler 7 before Federation officials who'd heard their story. As they danced under the station's dome, other couples watched with tears in their eyes, inspired by a love that had literally moved worlds. Lessons from the stars. True love is not measured by comfort, but by the distances you'll cross and the battles you'll fight to protect it. In the darkest captivity, hope becomes your weapon. In the longest pursuit, love becomes your fuel. Together, they are unstoppable. Strength in partnership means fighting both from without and within. Rescue comes not from one hero, but from two hearts refusing to surrender. Like stars bound by gravity, genuine love survives any separation, burns through any darkness, and shines brighter for having been tested by the cosmos itself.